the Republican chair of the Senate Health Committee, woke up to find out that he was surprisingly lied to by the Trump administration, by RFK Jr. specifically. Today, we're talking about what's happening at the CDC and the chaos that Trump has caused over there. I'm Shant Karnikian. I'm joined by Brian Kabateck on Civil Action on the Legal AF Network. If you like this content, hit that subscribe button now so you can keep up to date with us. Brian, let's talk about the CDC and what's going on over there. Let's talk about sabotage and science and junk science.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that I think the story is pretty well known at this point that the head of the CDC, the first person ever confirmed, because before 2023, the head of the CDC was not a Senate confirmation position. It was an appointed position and there was no Senate confirmation. So she, Dr. Monarez, she was in the job for all of about 28 days. She was confirmed. She was a highly respected doctor. It was confirmed along party lines. It was a very close vote. She made a promise that she was not going to undermine vaccine and science. This was part of her role. And she immediately ran into a stone wall named RFK Jr., right? Who, it's really important that we go back in time and talk about Senator Bill Cassidy. He's a Republican.
Yep.
He's the chair of the Senate Health Committee.
He's a physician.
And he's a medical doctor.
Yep.
And Shant, I believe it was very important to him because he ultimately became the swing vote to confirm RFK Jr. And this is where the lie comes in.
I mean, even more than that, people have described him as a lifelong advocate for vaccines. And he was a swing vote when RFK Jr.'s confirmation was in the Senate Finance Committee. And he grilled RFK Jr. about this during the confirmation hearings earlier this year in January. And he pressed him on whether, RFK opposes childhood vaccination. He pressed him on RFK's refusal to denounce the bullshit discredited theory that vaccines cause autism, for which there appears to be no real scientific support. And then, Cassidy, he said that he struggled to decide whether to vote to confirm Kennedy because of his ethics as a doctor. Beyond being a senator and a loyal Republican, et cetera, above all of that, he's taken an oath as a doctor and he has ethical obligations. So he was hesitant. And RFK Jr., I guess, gave him some commitments. Only after that, and he got pressure from Republican leaders, but after getting some commitments from Bobby Kennedy, he confirmed him in the Senate. He helped confirm his nomination in the Senate Finance Committee and moved out of there and went to the full Senate. And here we are with Bobby Kennedy confirmed. But obviously, that has sort of blown up in his face. He's disappointed. I mean, he shouldn't be shocked.
But let's go a little further down this road and talk about the timeline. So she gets confirmed at the end of July. On August 26th, there's this Trump cabinet meeting, which went on for hours, and a lot of it was live, or they were broadcasting it live. And during the meeting, Kennedy starts discussing, once again, that vaccines cause autism, which, by the way, nobody with any respect in science has made that link, right? And he's right back to the bullshit that he was spewing before the confirmation. So that's the fundamental lie, right? And he starts talking about that. And then the policy at the CDC, and particularly with respect to Monarez, the policy starts to change, about vaccine approval. Apparently there's new rules about who is going to get the COVID vaccine.
Right. And specifically vaccine eligibility for COVID vaccinations, right?
But in the meantime, Shant, I just want to talk about what happened on August 8th, that's when the shooting at the Atlantic headquarters, where a police officer was killed and someone fired over 180 shots by somebody who was particularly motivated in distrust of the COVID vaccine, right? So all this is going on at the same time. And then Monarez is told to, step down and ultimately she's told to step down because she will not go along with his anti-vax policy.
Right. And she refuses to step down. RFK specifically asks her to step down and she says no. Her lawyers, in fact, argue that her removal in that manner and that procedure is not legally valid until the president himself asks her to step down,
which he has
now. Of course, he gives
little Bobby anything little Bobby wants, right? Because apparently his statement is she's not aligned with the policy of making America healthy again, which I don't even understand the link or the connection. Can you explain that to me?
Well, the connection is you need to buy into Bobby Kennedy's insane theory about vaccines causing autism, even though there's no proof of it. And the changes proposed in vaccine schedules and eligibility and protocol, making it optional for people and letting families decide, will lead to wide-scale spread of things that have never been an issue in recent memory, in recent decades, things like measles and shit like that vaccines have helped control. So you need to buy into that. That's what explains all of this. If you buy into that, then what she's doing is, offensive to Bobby Kennedy. And
right. So here's what happens in the recent timeline. It's been well reported in the news is she goes and after he says he's going to terminate her or get rid of her or what he's doing, she says, you can't fire me. I'm, appointed by the Senate. She goes and contacts the Senator Cassidy, right? She contacts him and she says, look what's happening. Exactly what you said he wasn't going to do, he's doing. And then they contact Kennedy, his office contacts Kennedy, and Kennedy immediately calls her on the carpet and says, you're out, you're done, you're gone, get out of here.
Yeah, that's what
and four other people leave at the same time, like high-ranking people in the department. So we're lawyers. So let's talk about why this is probably an illegal firing or termination.
Of course it is. And it happens again in the Trump MAGA-verse. But there's a couple of laws that would apply here. Originally there was something called the Whistleblower Protection Act dating all the way back to 1989 that provides protections to federal employees who disclose things like danger to public health and safety. There's a long list of other things that provide protections for, but employees who disclose dangers to public health and safety. And I can't think of a bigger one than misguided vaccine policy or made up bullshit vaccine policy that's not backed by science. So reporting this to a senator who was previously given assurances by Bobby Kennedy is, I believe, a protected activity. And plus the Whistleblower Protection Enhancement Act of 2012, it's an Obama era act that strengthened some of these whistleblower protections, specifically protects disclosures made to Congress, like the one she did by going to Senator Cassidy and reporting this nonsense. So it's a clear violation of that. And I think she has some recourse here, civil recourse for having her rights violated as a whistleblower. I can't think of a better example of whistleblowing than reporting the garbage that Bobby Kennedy is trying to do.
I think garbage that he's spewing. And, this is the deceit and the dishonesty of the administration. I'll just sort of finish with my thoughts here, which is, did anyone actually believe RFK Jr.? I hate calling him Bobby Kennedy because his father was such a hero. RFK Jr., did anyone actually believe him when he sat there in Congress and raised his right hand and took an oath and said he wasn't going to undermine vaccines? I mean, it took him less than 6 months, Shant. And this is exactly what you're dealing with, deceit. And one wonders, when is there going to be a profile in courage in Congress? When is a Senator Cassidy or somebody like that going to stand up to the Trump administration and say enough is enough? And I don't know what the answer is to that. All I know is that we have to use the courts and we have to use our voice to continue to fight against this. So as usual, you get the last word.
Well, all I know is there's now a federal agency that's tasked with protecting public safety and public health that has that lost a scientific leader, a top scientific leader that was leading the agency. And that, I think, results in chaos and collapse. I mean, hopefully it comes back to bite them in the ass and they see that they've created a major problem and it creates some kind of political reckoning where you have people on both sides of the aisle, like Cassidy on the right, who steps in and says, this is ridiculous. I'm a doctor. This isn't about politics. This is about public health. This isn't about, progressive politics or traditional values. This isn't about rolling back certain things. No, this is about safety. This is about science, objective things that can be tested, things that are proven by scientists, things over which there should be no dispute. And I hope that you're right. I hope we do see a profile in courage. I hope we see someone like Senator Cassidy step up and shut this down. I'm Shant Karnikian. That's Brian Kabateck. This has been another episode of Civil Action on the Legal AF Network. If you like this content, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on other social media platforms. We're at a law firm called Kabateck LLP. If you have any questions for us, you have any feedback, feel free to share it in the comments. We look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.